I'm so lost in the sauce today that I'm pretty sure I've just become pasta. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and I've been given an interesting challenge today. So here's the game plan. Harbinger of the Seas, the blue magus of the moon that turns everything into islands. What if we didn't just win the game because my opponent couldn't cast their spells? What if we won harder than that? Carpet of Flowers makes it so for every island our opponent controls, we get an additional mana. And if every land they control are islands, well, I think you can see where this is going. So today I was asked to build a deck that has 4x Harbinger of the Seas and 4x Carpet of Flowers in the main. And I originally started doing this in an Urza's Saga fashion, thinking to myself, okay, well, if I need to have Harbinger of the Seas in the main deck, that is a fantastic way to do this. But as I started constructing the deck, I decided more and more that it would be better to just have a bunch of stuff that was very good if I just had tons and tons of mana. And Tamiyo came to mind pretty quickly, as Tamiyo's clues are normally a little hard to crack. They often sit there until the late game, at which point it represents a ton of card advantage. So, with Tamiyo stock up and Lorien revealed, we should have plenty of things to funnel the mana from Carpet of Flowers into in the endgame. And there were a couple drafts of this deck that were like bug for better removal, that had up the beanstalk in there, things of that nature. And as I started putting those together, I was just like, this is too sketchy. So we're going to try to stay as close to mono blue as possible and just use dismembers and gut shots as our removal of choice here. I'm still going to squeeze a couple of wastelands into the deck. I think that feels necessary. I'm not the best at dealing with Urza Saga construct tokens. I didn't find room for a couple of dress downs in here. So I think having a couple of wastelands as specific answers to Urza Saga, and like obviously Wasteland has utility elsewhere for things like Dark Depths combo. So we are going to steal some number of games with just turn 3 Harbinger of the Seas backed by counterspells. And in the post-sideboard games, we're going to pick up a bunch more counterspells to make us even more viable versus combo. But this is really a Murktide Regent deck. This is the way that I am going to end most games. So in the hypothetical world where someone realizes that in, say, Surgical's Murktide Regent, that does not actually leave me with very many things that get in the red zone and physically end the game. Although plenty of people might just concede to us drawing half of our deck. So fingers crossed for that. I think 16 lands plus Lorien Revealed and all of these cantrips and Tamiyo is going to be fine, but it might be just a touch greedy. We'll find out over the course of some gameplay here. And we'll see how I do at putting together something that is somewhere on the order of playable, with Edison's challenge here of Carpet and Harbinger of the Seas. And if you're crazy enough to do this yourself and you want to try it out at your local events, please consider getting your cards from toamagic.com. Promo code ThrabenU will save you 5% on your order. You always get free shipping, and their customer service is great. Remember, if you're going to a major in-person event, you can go ahead and order your cards online ahead of time and pick them up on site, and it is super convenient. So with that being said, let's battle. Okay, I have a decently reactive hand. I don't have anything proactive to put into play immediately. I'll still have a counterspell through Inquisition, and it looks like we are probably playing against a Dark Depths combo deck if I were to guess, although it could be some mono black pox sort of nonsense as well. Lotus Petal as a follow-up. I am not going to play that out right now. That might be brainstorm fodder here. It is notably not a blue card to pitch to Force of Will. And this is the opportunity cost of playing situational cards like this. So we're in a very fast combo matchup here. Imta Turok. Do I want to pick these two cards? Like, do I always want to keep stock up? No, I think I want to have a chance at discarding Carpet of Flowers. Nailed it. I did lose Force of Will, though. So we'll go ahead and cycle here. I usually can't do something with 2 mana. I think I'm just going to pick up Hedge Maze here. Usually. That's a little awkward. I think I am still going to do this, though. I don't need that land. And I'll pass the turn here. That is a Takenuma. Oh boy. Let's keep stock up and land. Or stock up plus Lorien revealed. Negative. Stock up plus Brazen Borrower, and now I want that land that I surveilled to graveyard. Got it anyway. What a filthy lucker. Do I want to take lands out of my deck? I don't think I need to here, since this still taps 4 mana. I'm going to take Harbinger of the Seas and some cantrip. I think I will go with Brainstorm, since I do have Polluted Delta here that I can use to fetch if I need to. Woohoo! I mean, don't Simian Spirit Guide me, I guess? Nice. Everybody's hanging out, having a good time. Oh, we got that just in time. So, it is very awkward if I attack into something like an Opposition Agent or a Bowmasters. I have to use my Brazen Borrower then. I think I'm just going to Brainstorm here. Yeah, these Dazes are kind of past their heyday here. I'll keep 1. It's a blue card to pitch to a Force of Will later. And then intend on just shuffling with this Ponder. Nice. There we go. Now I am comfortable attacking, I think. Alright, opponent did not have anything. We've got Brazen Borrower plus Force of Will backup. You can have more mana. No. No, 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 no. Quite comfortable with my Harbinger of the Seas in play, thank you. Not bad. Send in for 2. There is something to be said for just getting in there with this, but I think I like the safety that it represents. Holding cards for a long time is just a little weird because my opponent is actively a discard deck. I would rather just end up finding a Murktide Regent and finishing the game in that capacity. Yeah, there we go. I'll send in for my 2. 12. Then we will play this baddie. That's an 8-8. This will finish my opponent very, very quickly. Okay, game 1 Harbinger of the Seas did some work there. Given how fast this matchup is going to be, I don't think I'm usually going to have time to assemble Carpet of Flowers. Another Brazen Borrower is excellent. And then I think I'm looking at some number of Force of Negations and Dismembers to round things out. Consign technically does some stuff too. Dismembers can be helpful. Like we very much looked at a black deck there, but like there might be pivot creatures like a Goyf. If they are more green than it appeared in that game, then there's things like Elvish Reclaimers that I might want to answer. I think I'm just going to take these. That's a fair amount of counter magic, but not a keepable hand. I think I'm willing to rock this. I think I'm going to put the Murktide Regent back in the deck to draw that later. Alright, let's do this. Had to go grab the door. Lost a little clock on my time. A little clock on my time, a little time on my clock. I respect that given what opponent is doing here. That resolves. Just going on the generic wasteland here. This would suck. Alright, they're just making a called shot on one of my lands. I'm just going to use a Lorien Revealed. It's awkward that my counterspell of choice here is Force of Negation. Man, I hope I don't randomly eat something like an Opposition Agent. We're just going to take Trops here. Okay. I am happy with that pickup. A Wasteland and a Tamiyo. Yeah. Which one of you am I doing this turn? Tamiyo? I think Tamiyo. I think with 3 counterspells in hand, that's perfectly fine. But I don't think I protect a Tamiyo from a removal spell. Yes. You can draw a card if that is your plan. Yeah. It's an expensive card. Like, Castle Locthwain is a fine card, but that was a decent chunk of life there. That resolves. I would prefer to still have Force of Will in hand when this is all... Well, does that resolve? Like, it doesn't have to. Maybe it doesn't have to. Then I can still answer a creature. I'm going to go ahead and get in there for my clue. Gives my opponent a decent opportunity to try a removal spell if they would like. And I think I'm just into this. My Force of Will specifically now gets used to protect Harbinger of the Seas. I won't use it to protect Tamiyo, because my opponent could play a Dark Depths and then attempt to remove Harbinger. Oh shit, don't like that. Yep, this was the disaster scenario. That is a little late. This flies, so I will get one redraw. Like one more draw step. Okay, cool. I'm going to convert that into a hedge maze, play the hedge maze, and pass the turn. Oof. That's rough. So we've got 2 more Brazen Borrowers in deck. Lorien Revealed does not do it. I will die. That's a shame. We'll run it back. No changes. Brainstorm would never betray me and Brainstorm lock me, right? These 2 cards, especially in conjunction, are quite powerful, and if my opponent casts a discard spell, I can attempt to hide them in the short term. I'll Brainstorm in response. There's actually a decent chance that I can fully blank this Duress. Oh, no I can't. I am going to shuffle away this Murktide Regent with this Ponder in all likelihood. I'm going to hide the Ponder so my opponent doesn't take that. And I will show them a pretty stacked hand. I lose the generically good Force of Will. Now we're going to get a few looks at our next land. And I hit, which is great. I'll take that Misty. There's a Lorien Revealed on top of my deck, which could be land drop 3. I might end up just turboing out a Murktide Regent. Your Dark Ritual is happening. Hymn to Turok. I think I will just accept that. Lost the Brazen Borrower, which is the one that I wanted to keep there. I mean, whatever, that means I just pivot and I play a Murktide Regent backed by a Daze, and that's not the end of the world. I am fine dazing that here. Bouncing this island. Dark Depths is in play, which means it's slightly safer to just Harbinger of the Seas here. All hedge maze. I don't think I want that. Force of Will would be an ideal draw, probably. There's an 8/8 Murktide Regent. Urborg. Okay. That's not great. I can't cast that immediately. So I'm just going to cycle this or a land, play a land, and pass the turn. Stock Up and Harbinger don't do anything here. I get a block, but then the top card of my library needs to be Brazen Borrower or something that finds Brazen Borrower. And I need one of my opponent's 2 cards to not be a removal spell for Murktide. That is a removal spell for Murktide, meaning that I have died to Dark Depths. GG's, that was some solid magic. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. If you want to see upcoming sets, if you want to understand commander brackets, or if you just want an awesome place to store all, and I mean all, of your deck lists, Moxfield is the place. You can organize all of your decks by folders, and you can even change the views. You like visual, they've got that. You like text, they've got that. Check out my Moxfield Pro Field if you want to see all, and I mean all, of the decks that I've been cooking up. All right. So, opponent, are you a blue deck? Let's hope you're a blue deck. But you're sure F6'd like an ancient tomb deck. Mox Diamond. It's more Dark Depths. Sure. And a Sphere. All right, well, you got it. So my stuff is going to be more expensive this game. This is just easier to cycle later if more spheres keep coming. I think I'm just going to 2-mana Ponder here. Additional land drops are theoretically okay. I kind of have one more land drop already. I am looking for a Harbinger of the Seas. I think I'm just going to take the shuffle. Whatever my opponent does this turn is effectively uncounterable. Maze of Ith does not tap for mana. Soul Guide Lantern. Actually annoying. Stock Up. I really want to Brainstorm and get the shuffle. That's a little greedy. I'm going to just grab a basic here and throw down a Tamiyo. Then we'll see what sort of nonsense my opponent grabs. That would be my guess. A new Urza Saga. Would be a cool time to draw Harbinger of the Seas. And there's a Life from the Loam. Alright. I'll get my clue. think I'm just digging deep with stock up. I get basics in respect of Life from the Loam, Wasteland here. Absolutely not finding Harbinger. Brazen Borrower is fine. The rest of this stuff is pretty mid. No dredge on Life from the Loam. Another Urza Saga. Alright, there's Harbinger of the Seas. It is very awkward to now play Harbinger of the Seas with this timing. I think I simply cannot do it until both of these Urza Sagas have gone through. Massive downside of the rules change here. I'm going to cycle one of these. I'm going to pick up basics. My opponent doesn't have green mana yet. What if we just do that? Make these a little more awkward as well. Yeah. So that is exactly a 5/5. But unfortunately, that doesn't work out super well for me because of the sphere. My opponent can just get some land and discard it to the Mox Diamond I know they already have. Yep. And then move on their way. Harbinger just very, very awkward here. Alright, so these are 6/6s and now outside of range of Dismember. Not great. Not outside of range of double Dismember. Might have Swift's Lava Spur Boots coming. I can block and Brainstorm. Maybe block with a Murktide Regent. What if I Brainstorm? If I Brainstorm now into Wasteland, that helps a lot. Missing is very bad. I only have 2 Wastelands. I'm very much on the back foot here. Oh, right, yeah. Make 0 blue mana. Brainstorm. Not great. I guess I will put back some Dismembers. I will Tamiyo plus, Hedge Maze, bin a Dismember, then Murktide Regent, yeah. There's one that can block for a turn. And we'll see where we go from there. I might just die this turn anyway. If my opponent can get haste on this. Alright, that is a Mox Diamond. That is another Mox Diamond. Those are now 9/9s. They're going to turn into 8s. This is going at my face. This is also going at my face. I die if I take both hits. And now I don't think I can beat 3 of these. And I, know one of the things that I'm drawing. My opponent has 2 lands. So if I play Harbinger, Harbinger is plus 2 mana. But I show Harbinger. I think I am not showing Harbinger unless this Brainstorm is just batshit insane, which it is not. Alright, so in accordance with the prophecy I made in the deck tech, we are not great versus Urza Saga. With some different timing, we could have been, but that's not how this played out. I am interested in Force of Negation for Life from the Loam specifically. I'm interested in Brazen Borrower for constructs. I'm interested in Consign to Memory for Urza Saga triggers. I think Daze is going to go out. If it works, the Carpet of Flowers thing is pretty darn cool in this matchup. Because I can get bottlenecked on mana. Would not play Dismember and do this. Sure, let's try to meme a little bit. This is fine. I will get Tamiyo going immediately, and then potentially I do something cool with Consign. Opponent gets their Mox Diamond. Brainstorm as the draw? Rats. Ponder. I'll ponder immediately, look at the best cards. There is a Force of Negation for a Life from the Loam if I specifically want to do that. I think that is a fine pickup. And then I am going to hold up and sign or fetch away those bad cards that I don't want. Rather than playing a very funny looking Rashad Port that taps my opponent's Caracas. I'm going to fetch. I'm just going to be getting basics here. Despite the fact that I have Carpet of Flowers in my hand. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm in. But the downside here is that I didn't cast this yet. Opponent floating mana in response for Crop Rotation, which I can't counter via Force of Negation. That gets a Dark Depths with no counters. Can you answer this immediately? 3 mana. Disruptor Flute resolves. Naming Force of Will. And Swords. Yeah, my Force of Negation does not work on my own turn. So we die to the 2020. And that is twice that our own Harbingers have lost us a game. And it is round 2. Alrighty. Opening hand is fine. We've got a Tamiyo backed by a Daze. A Brazen Borrower to bounce something out of play. And this is an Urza Saga. We're playing against Painter. Do I want to counter that? I think no, because this is also just a grindstone, but it looks funny. Murktide Regent. Let's ponder. I do want more land here. I think I am okay keeping these. Then I will hedge maze the creature that I don't want into my graveyard. It just becomes Murktide Regent food. So, this is the third round in a row that playing Harbinger of the Seas has been a bad thing. Because if I now play Harbinger of the Seas to mess with my opponent's mana, this Urza Saga, and then the turn after that, that Urza Saga, don't do anything. Luckily, my opponent gave me something else to do. I'm just going to do this island. That's a Spirit Guide. That's real good. Everything is black. Daze is not bad. I'm going to get my clue. And I think I'm going to try to make my opponent use their mana for Grindstone. The Grindstone activation actively makes my Murktide Regent better. So we've got a colorless mana floating, a Lotus Petal, a City of Traders. That's not good. I think I die here unless my opponent messes up. All they need to do to win the game is pass priority and exit this phase. Then I can't Brazen Borrower. I will take the 1, and I die to this. That second Painter was super unfortunate. Dead. So in terms of deck construction here, if the Harbinger is bad, I have to board out Harbinger and Carpet Flowers at the same time. Those cards are linked, but I can't really board out 8 cards. So that means that I'm kind of stuck playing the Harbingers and hoping that I can make something line up okay, which is probably pretty unlikely. We have registered a deck that is called Shots versus Blue, and then gotten paired against 3 non-blue decks in a row. There's a lesson there to be learned about just playing things that are objectively powerful. I have a decent number of counter spells here. Tamiyo? Tamiyo and Wasteland seem okay. Basic Mountain, you've got it. Which means that I am not doing the Wasteland thing immediately. I am not going to Brainstorm here because I want to be able to do it in response to a Pyroblast or Lightning Bolt, whatever. Get the basic, Brainstorm in response. I'll put back 2 cards. It doesn't super matter what. Put back these 2. Now, if my opponent has another Lightning Bolt, I will have to decide whether or not I want to pick a battle over Tamiyo. There's Saga, which I can Wasteland. I think this is worth fighting over, since I have another Tamiyo in hand that isn't super good. I guess I should have ordered these the other way to play around this exact sort of scenario, because I could Murktide here. But I guess I can also just hardcast a Daze, or hit the next land drop for stock up. My turn's still fine. Stop it. Yeah, I will hardcast a Daze on that. That's fine. Ooh, Rixie. Alright, opponent working towards assembling their combo. I potentially want to just shuffle away the Murktide now. Hit the next land drop. That's damn good, because I can use that to stop my opponent from getting a Grindstone in a minute. I'm just going to keep plussing this. I think I let that happen. City is great for my opponent. Alright, I'll draw. There's a new Tamiyo. I'm going to go ahead and just represent the ultimate here and call it a turn. Oh, fuck. Oh, no. I'm still okay. I can still counter the triggered ability, is what I want to be doing, so the color does not affect that. And since I don't have anything else to do with this mana, I'm going to cast that with 2 copies of Replicate. And just make sure my opponent doesn't get the Grindstone. Pyroblast on my Tamiyo at 8 counters is rough too. I guess that's not dealing any damage though. But I really wanted to draw the majority of my deck, believe it or not. Let's stock up. A Ponder and a Brazen Borrower, I guess. Batch. A Ponder. This is just terrible. Harbinger of the Seas timing again. Going to keep this, and I can consign to memory an Urza Saga trigger. But man, my deck is just absolutely backfiring on me. Take 2, raw. Gonna consign a trigger. I need this card advantage. Otherwise, the Urza Saga tokens are just going to eat me alive. So there's a token. It's a 2/2. Alright, so opponent's just not attempting the win here. Going to consign that just once, because sometimes I cast a Brazen Borrower on a construct token. Alright. I am going to take out a construct token. I'll block and take 1. I'm at 14. Now playing Harbinger of the Seas doesn't make a ton of sense. I think it's probably better as a Force of Will pitch card right now. Timing here, absolutely frustrating. Loop. It's not castable. I have 3/3 drops that I can't cast. Rough. Ancient Tomb. Simian Spirit Guide. I sure don't want to Force a Will that. I am absolutely afraid of just dying to just fair beat down, though. I would like to use my mana to stock up next turn. This is embarrassing, but I think I'm doing it. If I luck into a Brainstorm checks the current board relatively well. Dismember. That's a thing. Not an untapped land. I think I'm still taking this. And I think I'll take Hedge Maze. Could take Lorien Revealed. Take Hedge Maze. Do not need a Daze at this stage of the game. And I'm just going to pass the turn and save 1 or 2 life. That's happening and is bad. If this is going to get bigger from treasure tokens, then I think I just take a little extra damage here to do this. I'll take 1. I am at 4. Ah! I will play a Murktide, and I think I'm holding back with the intention of casting Brazen Borrower and trying to pivot into Beatdown and kill my opponent in 2 attacks. That's a grindstone. Yeah, take an instant or sorcery out of my graveyard. Throw the Murktide Regent. It's going to pick up an extra mana and grindstone me, which obviously will kill me. However, we've got a great play here. Got him. We've probably gotten paired against another non-blue deck. I think my opponent plays Maverick-style stuff. That said, we have a chance to assemble the thing here. I'm just going to lead on a basic so I don't get immediately wastelanded. And throw this down. Get rid of that. Stop. Bayou. I am okay with that. Force of Will as a pickup. I'm going to make my clue, deal 0 damage. It is objectively correct to just crack the clue token, rather than play Carpet of Flowers. However, for other people. So playing out the Tropical Island opens me up to Wasteland, which means that I can't Harbinger next turn. And cracking the clue lets me play Misty Rainforest and just fetch an island. Ooh, basic land, daggers. That is a Grist. I'm going to Force of Will that so that I can play Harbinger of the Seas. Getting the Daze value is great and everything, but... Oh fuck, I needed to play Harbinger first main. So that I can crack a clue immediately. Oops. Oh, shit. That is a match concession. Well, I mean, there's your screenshot, right? There's the Twitter bait of, oh my gosh, the combo that we assembled. But, it perhaps does not spark joy. GG's opponent. I get it. I've been there. I have an unimpressive opening hand here that is borderline a mulligan. However, our opponent's a blue deck. What if Carpet of Flowers? We riot if it is 5 non-blue decks in a row on the day that I'm playing main deck Carpet of Flowers. Basic Swamp into Thoughtseize. Yeah, sure. You can take my days rather than I cast it. Gives my opponent information, but, you know. I'm going to assume that it is correct to find counterspells with my Brainstorm mana. I'm just going to Brainstorm now in case we need to be thinking about Orcish Bowmasters. Hey, those are Magic the Gathering cards. A land goes back, and then one of these 2 goes back. I think I'm going to go Murktide back and just fetch and throw down Tamiyo immediately. And the next turn I can start using these 2 Dig. Are you a blue deck? Still unclear. Probably not. Outland Liberator. My Carpet of Flowers is in danger. Wall Wasteland. I'm going to make my clue, and I'm just going to transform Tamiyo. Brazen Borrower. These are some cards. I think I now care less about stock up. Go ahead and plus this. Make my land drop. Honestly, I think I just fetch now and take a tempo-oriented play with my Tamiyo here. And I counter the next 1 to 2 things that come down. Prismatic Vista. Yeah, I believe in you, Tamiyo. Oh, there is a follow-up play. Jund. Nice. I can stock up and look for my next counterspell, perhaps? Or just something big like a Murktide as a pivot plan. I'm going to take a stock up and a Force of Will. I'm going to just send this to 6. I may end up just like minusing Tamiyo to re-buy some stock ups. Yeah, that's why I didn't minus this specific turn. Factory. Wild. Yeah, with like clue tokens and Tamiyo ticking up, I think that's fine. But I can't keep this up forever. Combo. This does technically protect my Planeswalker. Yeah. I will make 1 blue mana, which I can't use to crack my clue because I need 2. This is potentially the turn where things start falling apart, though. Because now whatever my opponent wants to resolve is resolving. Oh, shit. That is going to get protection from instants, and then later protection from everything. And my out to that was Dismember, which is not live anymore. Yes, I will add 2 blue mana, which I will use to crack a clue. I hit Lorien revealed. I'm going to play a Murktide Regent. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's big. I'm going to Island Cycle Lorien revealed. Pick up an island. Play an island. We're gonna plus this and pass. I don't know how likely it is that my Murktide Regent lives. Tamiyo can't die from just Hex Drinker here. We're going in on it, though. Opponent is now thinking at 7, which is weird to me. Their critical 3-drop my opponent needs to cast. There's 8. This attacks for 5. So they do not win the straight damage race, and they don't kill Tamiyo this turn. My read on this situation is that my opponent... What? That's interesting. Oh. Well, I thought this was going to be a lot scarier than it was. We pivoted and turned the corner. Alright. So now we've assembled this twice. I like any sort of removal spells here. Hydroblast. There's probably some reflection of Kiki Jiki Fable of the Mirror Breaker type stuff in there, and certainly some Pyroblast stuff. I mean, against our 5th non-blue deck in a row, that's the obvious thing, and then we probably just fill with Gut Shot or Force of Negation. I think I'm going to do Gut Shot in respect of Orcish Bowmasters. I might even want more Gut Shots. Yeah. I think it's very, very easy for me to lose to an Orcish Bowmasters, given how little removal I have in this deck. Yeah, this looks solid. I am good with this. Oh, that card is fucking scary. I don't think I answer it immediately, unless my opponent is going deep into the sauce for something like a Spirit Guide. Then I can potentially waste some of my opponent's mana by having them funnel into that. Notably, in case this comes up later, you can only level up as a sorcery. So if my opponent puts the level 3 ability on the stack, I mean, if I block and my opponent Bowmasters, that would be annoying. Alright, your attack is free. You got it. 17. There's the land drop, and there's the Bowmasters. So I now have 2 things that I would like to remove. I'm trying to decide if Tamiyo is just saving me life. Tamiyo is just saving me life. So it is my hope that my opponent levels up the Hex Drinker, and I can Brazen Borrower it, and then get rid of Bowmasters with Dismember. There's the third land drop. We'll see if they go for it. No. And Daze a Bowmaster this time. I'll potentially take 1 extra point of damage to have some flexibility here. Yes. That's end of turn. I'm just going to take that Hex Drinker out of play for now. And then I can maybe dismember this plus Brainstorm and then find another way to deal with the Hex Drinker. We're getting a response. Is it Bow Boy? Could be Bow Boy. In which case I have a Daze for it, so it's not actually all that bad. This does cost 4 life. Make a land drop. Cast a Brainstorm. And I would ideally like to find something that more permanently answers the Hex Drinker. Pyroblast on the Brainstorm itself. Sure. Then I will fetch. Grab Trop. Gut Shot would be a great find. Gut Shot. Nice. I am into it. Alright, cool. The Phyrexian mana definitely wearing on my life total, though. You can take your redraw. So I am expecting to see Hex Drinker, level, level, level. I'll take 1. Hex Drinker. Level. Level. Gut Shot. Go to 6. So I don't super want Harbinger of the Seas. I think I'm going to cycle this. I think pick up Hedge Maze. Surveil prior to the clue. I don't want that. That can go to Graveyard. I think I'm going to crack the clue before deciding whether or not I am attacking. A Gut Shot. Individual points of life matter a lot at this stage, but frankly, so do cards. I don't know whether or not I Gut Shot the Orc Army token. There are potentially multiple Hex Drinkers in this deck, though, and I know there are Bowmasters. So if I am going to Gut Shot it, I do it while my opponent is tapped out, I think. This is a big mana play. I hope it is dazeable. There's a Green Sun for 2. That is not dazeable. Putrid Leech. Why? You Death Shadow in there too? I'm gonna Gut Shot this because I can then daze a Bowmaster if my opponent tries to save this. And it's kind of a big deal. Alright. So at this point, a lot of my permanent removal doesn't do stuff anymore. Gut Shot number 3. Alright. Attempt to draw. You had the opportunity to cast that on your turn to great effect. Guess I'll take it. Lorien Revealed is not good here. At this point, this is probably a chump block. I will cycle this, get an untapped land, play a Hedge Maze. Brainstorm is multiple looks at Murktide Regent. I'm going to say that's fine. I am fighting an uphill battle here. Yes. You don't trample. You don't trample. I don't need to kill Hierarch now, then. I don't think the 2 life on my opponent's side matters much. But I'd rather be able to snipe a Hex Drinker. This needs to be a hell of a good Brainstorm. 7 cards in graveyard. Brainstorm will be 8 cards in graveyard. I will put back an island and a Dismember. I'll make a land drop. I need this to be at least a 5, which means 3 instants and sorceries. 1, 2, and 3. That's the minimum. I might make it a 6, though. I guess I could have paid on mana there. I don't think I Gut Shot this. I think it's a miracle that I am still in this game. Well, shit. That'll do. There's the +2/+2. That kills me. Got by the Putrid Leech, which still feels very strange to me. Feels like we're sideboarded pretty much correctly. Gut Shots were pretty good. Having the removal having to be Gut Shot and Dismember for being a mono blue deck is pretty rough, though. I'm going to say that this is fine. I'll go a step better. I think this is good. We will throw Tamiyo into play off a basic island. Have 2 counterspells backing it up. Work towards a Murktide Regent. Bloodstained Mire. Bayou. I am comfortable just taking the tempo play here. My opponent has scary things in their deck, like Green Sun, that I would prefer them not to start powering out immediately. And if I counter that, I can just have Tamiyo Planeswalker on an empty board backed by Force of Will. which seems perfectly fine to me. Ooh, these are some good cards. So I always want this. I always want Force of Will. I always want Murktide Regent. I think I'm going to bury Lorien Revealed and hide Brazen Borrower on top of my deck so it can't be thought seized. That sounds good to me. And Tamiyo Plus. Wasteland's fine. I'm going to have at least 2 basic islands here. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no colored mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. So that temporarily shuts off Force of Will. I can Brazen Borrower that out of play if I need to Force of Will something. Yeah, that's fine. There's Tarn. There's Tamiyo to 6. If I fetch, that's only 4 cards in graveyard. I can maybe Murktide Regent next turn, maybe. I'm just going to pass here. Noble Dryad Arbor has appeared. There are some weird called shots in my opponent's deck. I honestly think I'm just interested in putting cards into my graveyard here for Murktide Regent. So that's I need 1 more card in my graveyard to make things work, and Force of Willing this gets me there. I think I'm just going to Petty Theft that out of play, then Force of Will that. I think I can pitch stock up, and now I can have Murktide Regent and Tamiyo as incredibly threatening things. I could also Tamiyo minus and pick up Force of Will, and that would be totally valid as well. Shuffle that. Stock up is great. Yeah. So now I have a Tamiyo that is threatening to ultimate, a Murktide Regent, and a stock up and a Brazen Borrower waiting. My opponent does not have red mana yet for Pyroblasts. I mean, that'll work. Opponent gets a Bloodstained Mire. That represents red mana. You got it. I guess I could have played this in a way where I don't cast the Murktide Regent, and I just hold Murktide Force of Will to protect Tamiyo. I liked the idea of diversifying. Oh, Harbinger of the Seas does some stuff. Makes my opponent's mana very awkward. I'm going to take that and a Murktide Regent and assume that things will work out. But my opponent gets a turn to do things like Hex Drinker. There's a basic land. Void Mirror comes back down. I guess Void Mirror would have come back down if I had tried to do the Force of Will stuff. And Endurance. Sure. That could clear my graveyard and keep me from casting the Murktide immediately. But Harbinger of the Seas does a number on my opponent's mana base, and hopefully buys me some time. Now, black is going to be one of my opponent's removal colors, and we know that they do have black base removal in the deck. Well, now they have black. I will take some damage here. Okay, that is actually a very good draw, because it means that I can now cast a Brainstorm and Gutshot a Bowmaster in response. Okay, I do not want that many Gutshots. I'm going to put back a Murktide Regent and a Gutshot. I will cycle Lorien Revealed, picking up a basic island that looks a little funny. I am fine bluing right now. Dismember, that's not bad. I think I'm just going to preserve my life total with 3 Phyrexian spells in hand. I don't think I want to Gutshot Island Dryad Arbor. Oh, that's super unfortunate. Alright, I will take 3 from that. That's an island. I am good with the Dismember here. Is this a big enough Murktide Regent? I can make it 1 bigger by using a Gutshot. That seems fine. Oh, fuck. Void Mirror. Honestly, maybe that's fine. Yeah. I'm gonna send in. Should have kept the extra Murktide Regent over the Gutshot, though. I forgot about Void Mirror shutting off my Gutshot. Not something that comes up a lot, believe it or not. Now it becomes scary to cast this in case my opponent draws Bowmasters. I think at this point I start playing around Bowmasters aggressively. And just send in for 7 and then 10 with Brazen Borrower. And if a Bowmasters goes on the stack, I Brainstorm in response. That is another island. Opponent found 3 basics through Harbinger of the Seas, but it looks like they needed the basic forest. I don't believe that we put 2 wins on the board with this one, given that we faced 5 non-blue decks, many of which were very, very good against Harbinger of the Seas. You know, we were fighting an uphill battle today, But this was fun. I'm going to admit it. I did enjoy the challenge of trying to play this deck. But that's exactly what this was, a challenge. This was an untested idea. What does it look like if we went to Harbinger of the Seas plus Carpet of Flowers? And the reality of doing this is if you're not paired against a blue deck, you have 4 dead cards in your deck in game 1 until you get Harbinger of the Seas. And it's not like this is an A plus B combo that wins the game in the way that like an Entomb plus Reanimate often will. This is an A plus B combo that then requires you to have other things to do with the mana afterwards. And when you start getting into A plus B plus C combos in Legacy, combos in this case, it is often not strong enough. Something I say a lot in my videos is that Legacy isn't about synergy anymore. It is about playing objectively powerful cards that can win the games by themselves. And we had some of those in this deck. Tamiyo, Murktide Regent, and Harbinger of the Seas all have the possibilities to solo games. Admittedly, in very different ways and on different timelines. Given the constraints of the challenge, I'm going to consider this one a success. But I think something that today's league really showed well is that Blood Moon effects in Legacy right now are a little bit sketchy. Against things like Urza's Saga and Dark Depths, they can absolutely backfire on you. And this is not a hypothetical, we very much witnessed that within today's gameplay. If I were to do this challenge again, would I still approach it in the same way? Honestly, yeah, I think I would. Maybe you can play some of the mono blue enchantment removal rather than having 3 dismembers and 3 gut shots that are all Phyrexian mana. I will say the gut shots were worth their weight in gold against the Bowmasters and Hex Drinkers of all things that we encountered today. I do wish I had some sort of Null Rod style effect. Null Rod in particular is a little rough with the Tamiyo clues. But Urza Saga was a brutal beating against us, and Consign to Memory on its own wasn't enough. So I think you could futz with this deck and make it a little bit better, but I don't know that you should. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Time for me to start packing for Vegas. Folks, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and if you need some cards, you know where to go. Alrighty. See ya.